Hello, welcome back to Dead Serious. Today we're going to do something a little different, but I'm totally dead serious about what we're going to talk about. And so I want to talk about some unexpected requests that people have, whether it's what they put in the casket to bury with their loved one, or what they wanted to do, maybe for the service, during the service, or at the graveside. And then also what kind of different containers people have used for placing cremated remains in. And so just wanted to kind of, some of those things that you may have heard of rumors are true. And so I just wanted to kind of, on a lighter note, kind of bring that up, and because it's quite interesting over the years that I've been doing this, some of the strange requests I've had. But I always just tell people, man, if I wrote a book of all the different things I've seen or experiences, it would be quite the book. But and again, no disrespect to anybody, everybody has their own feelings and what they want their loved one to have with them, and even also those who are the deceased, what their requests were that they wanted to have done. So anyway, let's get right into it. So there are times that people will place lots of things in the casket, and that can be anything from a simple note that they wanted to write to their loved one, to pictures. Could be grandkids to draw pictures, and these aren't necessarily funny things or so forth, but these are just some things that people do put in the casket with them to be buried. Pictures, photographs, the favorite like teddy bear, or the deceased favorite item, maybe their favorite candy. When my son died, he loved Starburst. He was 5 years old, and he loved Starburst. And so we put a package of Starburst in the casket with him. And he loved trucks and tractors. And so on the head panel, the casket is open, the inside of the lid there. You can customize those things. And so we had a green tractor that we had placed up in the head panel. And so lots of different things. There are even caskets that you can get that have a drawer in them, to where you can place notes and pictures or any sort of memorabilia as far as that's concerned. I've had cigarettes, cigars, cans of soda pop, Pepsi's, Coke. They've even had cans of beer in a casket. I'm trying to remember if anybody's ever put a bottle of wine in there. Not that I can recall. Beer's a good one. And so lots of different things. There's nothing basically you couldn't put in there. I don't know if some of you have seen the video that was going around probably a year or so ago. The deceased had his son, I think it was his son, anyway, play the recording in the casket about him acting like he's wanting to get out of the casket. So he basically did a prank on everybody that was at the graveside, and he was saying, "Oh, let me out of here! What am I doing in here?" And it was a recording in his voice that he recorded before he died, and I believe it was his son, and asked his son to play that at the graveside as they were lowering his casket in the grave. So I thought that was pretty funny to do. I think usually at the cemetery it's kind of less formal in a way, if you want to say that. And I think most families believe that, because they come in and like, we just want something simple, so we're going to have a graveside service, and that's what they think simple is. But anyway, so that's kind of a funny thing to do. I've told my family I said, what I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to record my voice, and I'm going to, record something funny that's going to be played, or I'm going to have the funeral director hit play in my casket when I'm at the graveside or near my casket. So anyway, just to play with people and keep it light, make people laugh, because laughing is important. I coach basketball, and I always tell my players, I said, you need to, talk on the court. So not communicate, right? So your teammates know what you're going to do and what's going on when they can't see and so forth. And I tell them, I says, talking alleviates or releases some stress. And those emotions that are built up into you, talking, communicating will do that. And I believe laughing during the grief process, when you're grieving, it does a lot. It helps you remember that maybe it's not forever. I believe this life doesn't end at death, but it helps you remember the funny things from that person and their life, and so it helps you get through the grief a lot easier. So laughing is always a good thing. There was one time throughout my career I did, a person didn't want to have any clothes on. They just had a blanket over them, no clothes, and then just, they were a heavy smoker, and they had cigarettes, a lot of cigarettes. Strange request. It had only been one time, but, lots of different cultures do different things. And so in the way you believe also, I've had people talk about maybe putting their cremated pet in the casket with them, those sort of things. And that's not necessarily strange. For some people it might be, for others that was their loved one. And so I've also had a husband and wife. One of them was cremated, and so they held on to his remains or her remains until the second one died, and the second one was going to be buried in a casket. And so they put the cremated remains in the casket with that person and buried them together in the grave. So some of those things, cemeteries have certain requirements as well for those. So you kind of have to abide or follow those requirements. And when it comes to cremation, as far as what the cremated remains go into, I've had some people, I put people in Miracle-Gro containers, coffee cans. I've used the old beer bottles, kind of the the old glass ones. I've put cremated remains in some of those in that. Different things different people do different things. I've had people have been scattered on golf courses and scattered as they walk down the fairway, and they just kind of sprinkle some. Shouldn't do that. Golf courses don't like that, but in different places, a lot of people will scatter or take their loved one to their favorite hunting spot or camping spot or things like that. And I'll just say that anytime that's done on private property, should have the owner's permission to do that. If it is on public land like BLM or Forest Service land, you just need to talk to them. They will give you permission. But it is important to get the property owner's permission to do that. So there have been some, people always ask me, because I used to, not currently, but there was time in my career that I was actually doing the cremations and processing them and so forth. And we can talk about that more later. But, when people have hip replacements, knee replacements, shoulder replacements, or have either plates or screws that have been placed in their body at cremation, those are removed after the cremation before the remains are processed and put in the urn. And I've had people request that, they get the titanium joint back from their hip. They wanted those components, and we've given them back to them. What they're going to do with those, I don't know. But they're entitled to that, and so we give them back. So lots of different things. Some people, want a whole lot of things cremated with them. Like I said, there's not too many things we don't do, but anything, usually in a cremation, if it can explode, we usually don't allow that because it will damage the crematory as well. And so anything battery operated or anything like that, that does not get cremated. So, but again, yeah, I've had some different requests. Sometimes with viewings, everybody thinks that they're a loved one, or not everybody. Some people think that they're a loved one. Everybody wants to see them at death. And so when they want to make people go by the casket at the end of the service and, try and let them know, it's like, not everybody wants to. And like, nope, I want everybody to go. And so, again, that doesn't always happen. And, sometimes you just can't reason with the family member because of the situation that they're in, right? What they're feeling, what they're going through. And so we just try and do the best that we can to accommodate their wishes. But being respectful in the same way of letting them know that maybe we can do it this way, and still come out with the same meaningful outcome that they're looking for. So I've had, let's see, I think I've had somebody, and you can do this, but they had their loved one's cremated remains placed into a firework. I've had somebody also, just not too long ago, but they ended up sending a portion of their loved one's cremated remains to space. I've had people make jewelry or diamonds or glass with their cremated remains. It's just a small portion. It's not all of the cremated remains, but they're incorporated in glass, and that's something that is becoming more and more common. There are companies that will do that, making jewelry like the stone on the ring, like a diamond, making out of cremated remains and so forth, placing them in fireworks. People get scattered out of airplanes a lot, mostly over the mountains or over the water in the ocean, especially if you live on the coast. A lot of people will scatter at sea. And so, yeah, lots of different ones. I'm sure there's some that I've done or heard about that I just not remembering right now. But every day there's always, it doesn't seem to amaze me, some requests that people have, and sometimes there is a line that we won't cross, but for the most part, they're not too out of this world. But yeah. So anyway, that's kind of some of those requests, unexpected requests, and sometimes they're just families on the day of the service, they'll just ask, and it's like, oh boy, how am I going to do this? How am I going to accommodate them and make this happen? Or how am I going to explain to them that we can't, but in a respectful and nice way? So, but anyway, if I have some more come to my mind later in different episodes, I'll bring them up. I just try and be respectful to those situations. But I have, there have been cases, and there have been public cases that are out there in some funeral homes, aren't cremating their bodies, for whatever reason. And I know, in fact, there was a case in the Colorado area. There was a funeral home that was not cremating their loved ones, or not their loved ones, but not cremating the individuals that they had contracted to cremate. And they were indeed actually giving concrete back to families instead of the actual cremated remains, because they didn't actually cremate the body. So that's why it's always important to, do some investigative work or do some preliminary work before your loved one dies. If you haven't used that funeral home previously, ask questions, ask how they do things, how their processes are, because, again, not every funeral home is the same. And so anyway, just kind of wanted to cover that a little bit, so you can kind of see some of the aspects, some of the different requests that families do have, and shoot, you might even have one too. Have an idea of what you want to have buried with you, or what you want to have cremated with you as well. So interesting things that sometimes happen, but for the most part, it's pretty fun. So anyway, we'll see you next time on Dead Serious. Thanks for joining us.